Afternoon, John Breslin until 2:30. Now, this is World Parkinson's Month, and today is actually World Parkinson's Day. Ireland's only dedicated Parkinson's coach with over 8 years' experience is Irene Tracy. And Irene joins us now on the line. Irene, good afternoon to you.
Hi, John. How are you?
Good.
Thanks for having me.
What does a Parkinson's coach do?
I offer emotional and physical support to people who have been diagnosed with Parkinson's and their loved ones too.
Okay.
Often people with Parkinson's themselves are sometimes not ready to deal with it. So their partners or family members will come to me first. So that's what I do.
It must be a big shock to the system to get a diagnosis like that, and a shock as well for those closest to the patient.
For sure. I'm actually from Tramore, County Waterford, and I had a support group here. And there was a mother, or no, a father and daughter used to come, and she said that, the day Dad was diagnosed, we were all diagnosed. And this was a man, he was only 61, very fit, never drank, never smoked, was really baffled by it all. So and I'm not talking out of school, he's shared his story many times to help to raise awareness, but he got depression from it, and he just couldn't understand, and that laid out through the whole family then as well. So it was great that they were able to come to the support group, and it really helped them.
In that case, you didn't drink or smoke, and I'm sure you come across a lot of that, and people who lead otherwise healthy lives. What causes Parkinson? Is it hereditary?
No, well, they say maybe 5% hereditary. There's no real reason. They can't pinpoint to anything, but it looks like a lot now from pesticides. There's higher numbers growing from that. A lot of younger people are getting it, so stress is definitely a huge issue. So, when a new client would pare it back, often people will have it 5-10 years even before diagnosis. So we'll look back and see what big things happened in your life, so it could be a sudden death, or it could be a marriage breakdown, or losing a business or a child, or something like that, a big shock. And often, if we don't regulate our nervous system, the shock stays in the system. So it's really important to learn how to regulate our nervous system for all of us, that we release the stress from our body.
I often think that maybe that's what a lot of cancer diagnosis is caused by, but you think that maybe a Parkinson's can be a result as well.
Absolutely. And actually, a client I had a few years ago, she was 19 and she just fell. Girl called Claire from Claire. She just fell and banged her head, and it manifested in just her little toe started wiggling one day, and her mother said, "Oh, what's up with your toe?" And she goes, "Oh, I don't know." That was when she was 19. She didn't get her diagnosis till she was 24, 5 years later, because they just didn't think that somebody so young would have Parkinson's. But now I have clients in my 30s, 40s, 50s,
Wow.
and I'm 50, and I find it really find it really, really bewildering and baffling, that somebody younger than me can have Parkinson's. It's just, because we just think it's kind of like an older person's disease, but it's definitely not.
That's just what I was going to say. We do associate it with, the elderly, but not the case. And what's the first signs? Is it because it's to do with movement? So the first signs must be physical.
No, not necessarily. No. Loss of smell is a big one, and handwriting going small. So if you're writing, then the handwriting gets smaller as it goes along. That's a big sign. Then the classic ones would be tremor, rigidity, stiffness, bradykinesia, like slowness of movement, balance issues, memory loss. Then you have the non-motor symptoms like anxiety, depression. But there's actually over 40 symptoms of Parkinson's, and they look at when you see the four main ones, which would be slowness of movement, rigidity, tremors, and balance. If you have those, then they look into it deeper.
And is it different for everyone? Does it progress at a? Are there different types of Parkinson's, and do they progress at different rates?
For sure, they progress at different rates, yeah. And it really, so much of it depends on your attitude and how you deal with Parkinson's. I'll never forget, I went up to a presentation in County Cavan years ago, and I was doing the presentation about gratitude, talking about how gratitude produces dopamine in the brain, and that's the neurotransmitter that people need that we don't produce enough of. So I was talking about the importance of gratitude, and this woman was like, yeah, it's fine for you to be talking about gratitude, you're there, you don't understand, and all of this, she was really angry. So I went spoke to her afterwards, and I said, really, it's the anger. And she'd only been diagnosed 2 years, and she was so angry. And I was explaining that that's going to bring on her symptoms more. So really explain about relaxing, doing breathing, doing affirmations, visualizations to really calm the nervous system. That's really going to help. And thankfully, she took it all on board, and she really did notice a difference in her.
So there are various things that you can do to help yourself if you get a diagnosis, and you can have it. Is Parkinson's fatal?
No, you don't die from Parkinson's. No, absolutely not. And there's a misconception. I won't say it's a misconception. We're kind of told by the definition of Parkinson's that it is a degenerative neurological disorder without a cure. So often, and I'm hearing this from so many clients, when they're diagnosed, the doctors and neurologists are preparing them for the worst. They're preparing them from a wheelchair. I hear that all the time. They're preparing me for a wheelchair. And that will mess with your mind. You're going to it. My own father actually got sick in 2019, and his doctor said to him, you'll be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. And I said in with the doctor, said, no, I reject that. I don't accept that. And he said, you can do what you want with it. He said, but you're going to have to go home and get your house disabled friendly. And I said, no. And I was doing all the work with my dad. 3 weeks later, he was walking, John. 3 weeks later, after the doctors telling him he'd be in a wheelchair forever. So it's there's so much we can do. One of my clients from Cork, Tony Wilkinson, I did a presentation down in Cork, I'd say about 8 years ago, and I was doing a demonstration with Smoothies, which is these exercise tools that were invented by a man with Parkinson's. So I was doing a demonstration in the hall, and then I said, okay, let's go for a walk with them. And Tony has a cane, and he said, I can't walk with that because I've got a cane. And I explained that the vibrations from the tool help, like it kind of connects into the nervous system, and it'll help you stay more alert, and it's good for your balance. He started laughing. He goes, yeah, sure. I said, just try it. So he started doing it, and he was able to walk with them. That same guy did the Cork half marathon in under 3 years, 2 years ago.
Brilliant. So sometimes
he didn't get worse. Many people don't get worse.
Mind over matter.
Yeah. I love the phrase from Henry Ford, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right.
Yeah, and he and Henry Ford, of course, over his lifetime, proved that there's a lot that you can do. And when you get a diagnosis of Parkinson's, going to you would be a good, first reference point. And you help people then along the way, or initially, or at various times. How does it work?
Well, I've been doing it for 8 years. So when I started, I've been working with people with Parkinson's 10 years, but a Parkinson's coach 8 years. When I started, it was all different ages, different, how long they were diagnosed completely varies. Like yesterday, I had a client here who was here for has Parkinson's 32 years. Okay. I also spoke to a client the other day who was only diagnosed a few weeks ago. So it really, really varies. I personally now, after working for so long, really want to work with people who've been newly diagnosed, because I find, and this is obviously no disrespect, I worked with a lady, as I say, who had Parkinson's 32 years ago yesterday. I won't say no to working with people. I will help anybody, but it really comes down to the client themselves and whether they want to be helped. I notice older people, they will say, but the doctor said I can't do that. The doctor said I can't. The doctor said, so they're conditioned not to work with it. And as my dad used to say, he who is convinced against his will is of his own opinion still. So years ago, I used to be like, come on, you can do it. I'd be doing the exercise for them nearly, but they have to come and do it themselves. So I find younger people, especially if they've got kids, young kids, they're really they fight for it more. They want it more. They're hungry for it, and they believe in healing more, and they believe in natural therapies, and they believe in breath work. There's so much science around breath work, from some of the top neurologists in the world, and this helps regulate our nervous system. I say breath work to older people and they just laugh at me. They say, I've been breathing for 60 years, 70 years. I know how to breathe. They don't take it, whereas younger people, because they can go on YouTube and see the likes of Wim Hof, Dr. Andrew Huberman, Dr. Joe Dispenza, all of these world-renowned doctors are saying how breath work can just change everything. So younger people are more for it. And I see a bigger difference. And I want to make a difference to people's lives. So that's kind of what I'm doing.
You also have had experience in hotel management, and you put that experience to good use by offering retreats down at Tramore for those with Parkinson's.
Yeah. I used to live in Lanzarote, so I started it there. People come and live with me, and I got the idea from one of my clients who has Parkinson's 17 years. And she just said, oh, Irene, I just wish I met you when I was firstly diagnosed. I just want to come and live with you so you can give me all your knowledge. And I was like, that's a good idea. So it started. So I started it in Lanzarote, and I had clients come from America, clients come from the UK. So I just moved back home to Tramore 2 weeks yesterday. So I've got a brand new apartment in my house, renovated a brand new apartment. So I'm doing 3-day retreats here in Tramore. Again, looking for newly diagnosed people because, for the reasons I said. Now, in saying that, I got my first booking yesterday from a lady from Roscommon in her she's 70, but she's only been diagnosed last year. And her husband rang up and he said, did I hear that you do retreats in your house in Tramore? I said, that's right. So my wife can come and stay with you for 3 days and you'll tell her everything she needs to know. Jesus, that's fantastic. He was delighted with it. He was just lovely. So we were talking on the phone for ages, and he was there like, that's some service, The lady herself is dyslexic. She doesn't use computers. She doesn't read. So she was really like, oh, what can I do? So just talking through the phone with her, we just had a real connection even over the phone, not even on Zoom. They don't even have email, so this was a whole new world for her. So it's fantastic to be able to do that.
And I suppose anyone who gets a diagnosis of a serious illness, there's a clamour for information, and you want to find out, what's the outcome going to be, and what do I need to do, and you have all sorts of questions, and that's where you come in. And people don't have to be there physically because they can connect with you on Zoom.
Yes, yeah, I do coaching on Zoom as well as a person. I used to have a studio here in Tramore before COVID. And then, sure, that closed down for obvious reasons. So I had to learn Zoom like the rest of the world. Then that opened me up to the world. So I have clients in America, Australia, Switzerland, all over England, yeah.
What would you advise for a 70-year-old man with Parkinson's? Should he continue as normal? Is heavy work advised?
Is heavy work?
Heavy work, yeah.
Heavy, as in lifting things heavy?
I would imagine so.
Yeah,
even at 70.
Yes, yeah, I would continue keeping on with work. As long as it's not like literally so heavy it's going to break your back, hurt your back. But physical exercise is really important. And like if that's heavy exercise, heavy lifting, but again taking, mind his back in that. But heavy lifting or even heavy housework. If you can build up a sweat with anything that you're doing, it produces BDNF, which is called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And that's like miracle growth for the brain. It's like protecting your neurons. So it's like neurogenesis. We can produce new neurons, and when you build up a sweat for that. So any exercise, any, labor work or gardening, if you're gardening, give it socks, give it a good go, high interval training. There's so much you can do. Right. Exercise is as important as medication.
Just at 70, try not to be lifting too many bags of heavy coal.
Yeah, well, it depends on if he's able to fit, but mind your back, lift with your knees, bend with your knees.
if someone's listening now and would like to get in touch, would like to find out more, would like to get some advice and some coaching, how can they connect with you?
Yeah, my website is helpingpeoplewithparkinsons.com. And I also have a free webinar this evening at 8:00. And this is my top 10 tips to slow the progression of Parkinson's. And then next Saturday, because April, it's World Parkinson's Month, April. Yeah. Today's World Parkinson's Day. So next Saturday, I have my top tips on how to produce dopamine naturally. That's the neurotransmitter we're missing. And coincidentally, I found out last year I've ADHD, which is bizarre because that's also deficiency in dopamine. So much of my life is now making sense, so it's all kind of blending in. And then on the 25th, I'm doing another webinar for people who have newly been diagnosed. So all of the details are though on my website, helpingpeoplewithparkinsons.com.
Okay. Erin, it's been a pleasure. Keep up the good work. And thanks for having a chat with us on World Parkinson's Day. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Niall. John, appreciate that.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Bye.
Get with